My question to you is it possible that it's time for us to move on from Trump? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it.
Welcome to the Informator.net.
Saying it's time to move on from Jeffrey Epstein, but the specter of his old friend just won't go away.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work.
Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
Yeah, whatever's credible, she can release.
All right, guys, this is AP. Is it possible that it's time for us to move on from Trump? I mean, I know that's sacrilegious to a lot of you, but look what's going on. There's a lot of controversy in the news, a lot of promises being broken, and not everybody is MAGA that voted for Trump. I think we all believe in MAGA, but that doesn't make us a part of the MAGA cult, I would say. And I say that word because let's be honest, you have people on social media that believe no matter what Trump does, you need to stay loyal to him. They don't realize that that's not the way it works. When it comes to politicians and government, the government's supposed to be for the people. So we're not supposed to be loyal to Trump. Trump's supposed to be loyal to us. We like his ideas. That's why we voted him in. We wanted him to make some change. That's why we voted him in. We also wanted him to stick by what he was talking about, what he was going to do for this country, get us out of wars, bring out the Epstein files, do all the promises he made, right? Immigration, everything else. So to hold him accountable doesn't make you against MAGA in the sense of the philosophy. It doesn't make you against it. It's just saying, I want accountability. You said you were going to do this, so I need you to do this. And let's not forget that a lot of us, his followers, are Christians. I know there's plenty of you that are not, and so you don't care what he does. You don't care about his ethics. You don't care about his morals. But a lot of us do. We do care about that, and we have conflict in us. Should I be voting for a guy that is going to protect pedophiles or is a pedophile for all we know? I would say that's 50-50. You could make a case that he's on that list, these so-called files or list. He's probably on there. There's probably a lot of very powerful people. It's not ridiculous to assume that powerful people protect powerful people. You know that this channel is specifically, we talk about God and how we interpret God into our lives today. So this is important, I think, because when it comes to politics, especially right now, they have to do with almost anything. When you think of the world and where we're headed, where we're going, and if you think of it biblically, because there is politics in the Bible, as we know, the one world government and all those things in the book of Revelations. So politics means something. So even though this channel is to talk about our spirituality, our relationship with God, these things come up from time to time, and I need to talk about them. Unlike other people, like other influencers or whoever you watch, I don't make any money off this. I have stated many times my reason for even doing this is to help further along people in their faith with God. So that being said, let's get into this one. Oh, real quick, please subscribe to the channel. That would be great, and it would help us out. And plus, you're going to spread the word, and that's always a good thing. So, anyways, when we're talking about Epstein and what's been going on, this is where the relationship between God and politics, you get this clash, because many of us are Christians that vote, because we see the world going in a way we don't necessarily agree with. So we feel like, okay, we got to take a stance, we got to do something, whether it be voting against abortion or legalizing drugs, whatever, anything that's morality based, a Christian is probably going to take part in. So when you think of the presidential races, I think a lot of Christians vote because, well, let's be honest, we don't want the left to take over. Most Christians lean right, and the reason why is because of God and faith. When you look at the Democratic Party, they don't resemble anything they used to resemble. Like back in the 90s and before then, they used to talk about God. They used to do things that Christians would agree with. Like they used to be against marriage. The got to be sensitive on these topics or else you just get banned. But they used to be with whatever the Bible said, and they're no longer that anymore. They've changed. They're radical in a sense. So I think a lot of Christians end up voting Republican because they align more with the faith. And now I will tell you that doesn't make Republicans, conservatives, or any of them any better in the sense of, do they really believe in God? Do they really want to push God's message, or do they just have a different set of beliefs that are equally as bad, or maybe on the same level as bad as, say, the Democrats or liberals? Like, for instance, often when in the past, when I used to think Republicans or conservative, I used to think the love of money. And that is something to this day is still a fact. But you could say both Democrats and Republicans both have that stance. Everybody loves money. You know, most people on this planet love money. You're not supposed to, but that's the way it is, right? So we know that to a large extent that money runs the world, and it's going to fuel many of the sins and terrible things that end up happening to people in general in other countries, like the simple fact that many people suffer around the world because of the love of money, because we'll go and take resources, we go to war, we do all these things. So as a Christian, we vote Republican, conservative, we voted for Trump because we wanted to take this more of a America first stance, because it doesn't sound like it's very peaceful in a sense, but it's not true. All we're really trying to say is, if you take care of your home, you can then try to help everyone else. It's kind of hard to help everyone else when you don't even have your own home in order. It seems to me basic knowledge. So I'm already kind of going off too far. So let's just get back into what we want to talk about today. Maybe we should replace Trump. And I know this is already going to cause this firestorm, but the truth is we have to really look at this, at least from a biblical point of view as a Christian. Why are we at odds with this? I think the answer to that is simple, because it comes down to morality. I mean, do you really want to go against God and vote somebody in or back somebody up, even though you feel that person may be a terrible sinner? Because don't get me wrong, we're all sinners. But if you're a pedophile or protecting pedophiles, that's a whole different ball game there. If you feel someone is doing that and you're protecting them, I think you know inside that that's damaging to your soul. And I'm not here to judge you as in you're going to heaven or hell, but we know what the Bible says. We know what it says about people that do sins that are superior. You know, basically, it's a grave sin. That's all I'm saying. And we don't want to support things like that. If you're a true Christian, you just can't. You're not going to be able to sleep at night. You're gonna have guilt, and you don't want that. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened with the Epstein thing and why in my opinion, why we need to start looking at possibly, and I say possibly, replacing Trump. So let's talk about Epstein before. These were the negative things that Trump had said about Jeffrey Epstein. I was not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein. That I can tell you. He said that in 2019 in a press conference. I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. People in Palm Beach knew him. He was not a man I respected. He said that also in 2019. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. Everybody knew him, but I had a falling out with him a long time ago. He said that in a Fox interview. And this is true. I've heard about Epstein. I heard that a lot of people knew wherever he lived over there in Florida, in Palm Beach, he was someone that, I mean, they named a plane, right? His plane was called the Lolita Express, which I believe is named after a movie or a book. I think it's a book. And basically it was the book was about a pedophile, and they named his plane that. So that means people around him in his circles knew that he was this guy. So Trump is already alluding to that. When he says that people know about him over there, you know, that he was known, I mean, Trump knew what this guy was. All right, so he said, here's another comment. He said, he liked young women. I was not a fan of that at all. He said that in 2019. And I believe I heard a video where Trump actually says he's kind of was in the same at a period in his time. He mentioned young girls. He didn't say ages though or anything like that. But Trump has said weird things about his daughter, like in the past when Trump was a lot younger, and Ivanka Trump was young, and he would say weird things, things that dads don't say about their daughters, like "I would marry her," or talk about say her cleavage or whatever. Like he has said those things, and that's not deniable. Like I said, I'm not this MAGA guy that's just going to look past these things. I saw it, you know. Even when I voted for Trump, I voted not because of Trump's character. That was never a thing for me. I never really felt Trump was religious or believed in God a whole lot. I think he may believe a little bit more after the whole assassination attempt, but I don't believe he's that Christian. I don't fool myself like I think a lot of people do. That's a part of having wisdom, reading the Bible and loving God. Like, come on, let's be real. I mean, that's what God does. He opens your eyes to what's reality and what's not. And I think a lot of these so-called Christians on the right, they can't distinguish the two. And when you hear them talk, is that it's as if they love Trump more than they love Jesus. And it's really weird. It's a weird thing I've witnessed. Like I said, that's not all of them, so I'm not gonna throw everyone in that basket. But you see them. I read their posts. I look at them, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like they can't separate the two. But I can, because, like I said, to me, politicians are like the stock market. They go up and down, and as they do things you like, you say good, great job, and as they do things that you don't like, you say it too. You say nah, I don't like it. I don't agree with that. And that's the way it works in politics. There's no one that's ever going to please everybody. So it's always going to be a negative, this love and hate relationship. It's always going to be something like that. But I will tell you, I've defended Trump for a long time. I did know he said a lot of these weird things, but I'm also a believer in Christ that people change. And a lot of the things I heard him say that were stupid were way back when, in the 90s and stuff like that, or early 2000s. I mean, you have to give people a chance to change. I don't know how many years you spread that out on. Like, has do you give somebody 5 years, 3 years, and say, can you change within that amount of time? I don't know if there's an actual time, but I'm a believer in second, third chances, all that, because that's what Christ gives us, right? He gives us almost unlimited chances. So I like to live what I read in the Bible. So I am human and I do get upset, but I will try to give people several chances. So, anyways, let's move on this little list here. So, when pressed in 2023 interviews, Trump responded to renewed Epstein interest with, "He's dead, he's gone, nobody cares anymore." 1992 Mar-a-Lago party with Epstein. Trump and Epstein seen party with cheerleaders. Footage exists. That is true. You just saw that in a little clip I showed you where he's hung out with Epstein. There's pictures, there's plenty of pictures of showing him with Epstein. There's pictures of him dancing. There's pictures of him in clubs, and there's audio and video of these type of things. So, in 2007 conviction and 2019 arrest, Trump said this was Epstein who was convicted and arrested. "I was not a fan of his, that I can tell you." Claimed he hadn't spoken to Epstein in 15 years. That was a contradiction. Flight logs and photos suggest ongoing contacts into the 2000s. He kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago reportedly over hitting an underage girl. He never publicly mentioned that until much later. So those are things that are reported or alleged, like that one. I know he said he kicked him out before. Was it a underage girl? I don't know. I can't tell you if that's true. That is just something I looked up. I used AI, and we already know AI is not 100%. It just pulls stuff off the internet. So I do find it interesting that it's now saying that it was a young girl, but we do know that Trump mentioned that Epstein liked young girls, and he did that in a couple of interviews that I personally seen and heard myself. So what Trump claimed he do as president again. Okay, this is Epstein related. This is Trump now ran for president. He's president now. So this is the kind of stuff he told us, right? His voters. He told his base, and then he told the voters. He promised to release the Epstein client list, right? "When I'm president again, we're going to get to the bottom of Epstein. When I'm president again, we're going to get to the bottom. I'll release everything. We'll unseal it all. Name, logs, everything." He claimed that the media and elites were protecting the list. So see, he's even saying that he's fueling what a lot of us already believe. We believe that there was a cover up. I mean, it, right now you can look at Tucker Carlson. He just had this guy on. You can hear Candace Owens. You can hear many people have really dug deep into the case. Me, I didn't dig that deep because I didn't need to. To me, this has been going on through all of history. So elites do this, right? I mean, what was that movie, Eyes Wide Shut by Kubrick? You see that movie, you see what's going on here. As a writer myself, I don't talk about this much, but I have written novels. I don't talk about it much, but I can tell you as a writer, that's what we do. We gather information, we research, we gather information. There's truth, there's rumors, there's all these things, and we put it together and we make a story. That's why when you watch movies, often these movies seem to be predicting things. It's not because the writer's a prophet, it's because we gather information. If I'm going to write a sci-fi novel, right, about say like the one I have written, I'm not even going to tell you the name of it, but it's about the brain chip, which Elon is talking about. I wrote that book in 2016. The reason why I wrote it in 2016 is because when you went on to these tech magazines, they talked about it. They would have these captains of industry, and they would talk to they would tell in interviews what they planned on doing in the future. So you get information like that and you kind of see the ideas, and then you hear rumors. You hear these little type of conspiracy. You'll hear like stars talking to a scientist, and then they'll mention something like, yeah, so and so said that they believe one day in the future they're going to be able to connect everybody through their minds and stuff, because these plans of living forever and all these things under the sun, they exist. Okay, when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of power, you have a lot of ego, and especially if you have no God, right? Because you don't have wisdom if you don't have God. So you'll have a ton of knowledge, but you won't have any wisdom. So they get all this money, all this power, and so the sky's the limit with them. So they're going to dabble in all this crazy stuff, and that's why you got people like Epstein. Uh, it's They do everything all over the world that satisfies the flesh, but it isn't enough because they don't have God in their life. It's not enough, so they get weird. So the Epstein case, that's why I didn't need to dig in it, because once I heard it, I was like, I believe it. The elites do this kind of stuff. They protect each other. They have these fetishes, they have these secret societies. I know enough. You know what I mean? I mean, what was that movie, the Skull and Bones, that came out a long time ago? It talked about it. It talked about how many presidents came from these secret societies. How about when JFK had his speech about secret societies? They exist. The elites have always had places where they go where you're just not accepted. You're not. It's weird because it's kind of like you're not supposed to be. What do you call that? When you don't let anybody into your establishment. You can't be. What's the word? I can't think of right now. But they have places where you're just not allowed in if you're not powerful. And it's more powerful than rich, because there's plenty of rich people. But we're talking old money. We're talking uh, genealogy, ancestries, your ancestors, who they are, all those things matter. And they have these clubs where you're just not allowed in. And in those clubs, they talk about the things they're into. And I don't doubt that it's a bunch of weird shit. A lot of these people, they don't grow up like us. They don't grow up like the normal person does. So, sometimes when they're young, they're awkward, and now when they grow up, they got limited money. They can do whatever they want. Sad to say that a lot of our people will do whatever they want. They become their slaves, not slaves like, you know, back in the day, but you're slaves to them, as in, like Epstein, he would have that woman, Maxwell, right? She would go pick up the girls. And one of her tactics was offering money. So you can paint the picture yourself. She pulls up in a Corvette or a Lamborghini, on the poor sides of town, because that's what Epstein would want her to go. She would go find these high school girls that probably looked already a little promiscuous, and then she would come out and offer some money. Hey, look at my car. Want to come hang out? You give you a couple $100, and back in that time, like in the 90s, a couple $100 is like $1,000. to a young kid, and it's like, hey, all you gotta do is massage, and then these girls get entrapped in a grown man's mansion with the fence, and then they're scared shitless. Like, what do I do? How do I get out of this situation? So they're gonna end up doing things that they don't want to do, and then Epstein has so much money, and then old money. Um, he had power backers and a lot of influence, and he knew people that were influential. So that's why he never got in trouble, because that's what elites do. So that's why I believed it pretty quickly, because we know this is what they do. And then when he died, why do so many people come out with that conclusion that he killed himself? Because I'm not the only one that thinks this way. A lot of us do. You know, the separation here is biblically is that if you just go off your knowledge, you're going to hit dead ends over and over and over again. When you have the wisdom of God, you see past a lot of things that others can't. And sometimes it's not even provable. Most conspiracies are not provable. You can't prove them, and you're probably going to die. Most of these are never going to be proven because the information gets hidden. But that's why you develop the theory, and if it's a good one, usually the theories I follow is because there's enough evidence there that says yes, some crazy shit went down, but we just can't prove every aspect of it. JFK, we know who's assassinated by who, right? That's the question. Who did it? I mean, I haven't looked into the files since they've been released, but what did I expect to hear? I mean, I'll eventually look into it. We have the tools with AI to look into it. But what did I think happened? Well, it's the government, the Pentagon. He didn't want to get into wars. The war machine, right? He mentioned that. Who was it? Was that FDR? I don't know. I ain't bringing Chatty on, so I'm just throwing this out there. One of you will know who I'm talking about. They talked about that, about the Pentagon and the war machine. Like it needs to be fed, and it needs to get its way because there's so much money involved. There's so much power involved. It's like Game of Thrones in real life. You know what I mean? So this Epstein thing is a no-brainer. It did happen. But those are the things that Trump was saying. Like he said he was kowtowing to us as voters, saying, hey, I'm going to release those files because we care. And the reason why we care is because these girls that get abused, they're usually the middle class. You know what I mean? Girls from the middle class or below. The elites, maybe they have those problems, but we know that that's their club. That's their club. So it's probably not going to happen the same way it happens with the masses. Plus, there's more of us. So it's simple numbers. They're simple numbers. They're just more young girls in the middle class in the poor neighborhoods than there is in the richest neighborhoods because there's just less people. So it's our kids that have to go through this, and that's why us as voters were so interested. Right? But anyways, this is what Trump does afterwards, right? So after they come out, Pam Bondi says, okay, there's nothing here. There's nothing to see here. Kash Patel, Bongino, I know people want to stick up for them. I've wrote an article, and I've been ahead of the curve on the Informator.net. You can see the articles there. I've been ahead of the curve, and you're even going to see here because I'm going to point this stuff out. But anyways, she comes out and says there's nothing to see, and now Trump, what do you do? What he's been doing lately, what's been driving me crazy. He's flipping. Trump is flipping. I know a lot of you can't put it together, or you don't want to. You're blinding yourself. But Trump is flipping, and I'm being honest with you. Right? Okay, so now it's called the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. He's trying to name it because this is what he does, right? He names it, tries to get rid of it. Dismissive. Let's get rid of it. Let's make it a name, a funny name. We'll laugh it out of existence. That's what he's trying to do. And so he wants to call it the Epstein hoax. And he got backlash. And he should have. Because he's being a complainer. You're being a complaining little bitch. So when you do stuff like that, what do you expect? You start to look suspicious because that's what you should. Anyone with a brain should look at you and say, what's going on here? Why are you talking that way? You weren't doing that before? Are you on the list? You know what's going on? I think those are reasonable questions. So that's what he said. He's calling it a scam. It's orchestrated by the Democrats, right? He said all these things. He called us stupid, right? Stupid weaklings. called Republicans who push for more Epstein transparency stupid people, weaklings, accusing them of doing the Democrats' work, right? Because that's what he did. Those are debate tactics. He's trying to push blame, get it off himself. This is how you put it together. This is the wisdom. This is the wisdom part. Why are you doing this? Why are you pushing it all around? I have my thoughts. Like I said, I think it's 50-50 that Trump's on there because from the weird shit that he acted with his daughter, right, to him trying to cover it up. But I say 50-50. Why do I say 50-50? Because it doesn't always mean guilty by association. You know, he may have not went that far. I don't know. But 50-50 is a high number. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was. If it was, I mean, I think today that was just released. Was it the Washington Journal? I'll put that up in a bit. But
now, the Wall Street Journal says it has details of a message from Trump in an album created for Epstein's 50th birthday, in the form of a naked woman's outline, Trump's famously idiosyncratic signature allegedly standing in for her pubic hair. Inside the drawing, the journal says, typed text depicts a conversation between the two men. Voiceover, there must be more to life than having everything. Donald, yes there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. The report contains President Trump's response. This is not me, he says. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my word.
You know, they're basically saying that he had letters, and I don't know what to believe. That just came out, and honestly, right now, I'm just going to say, who gives a shit? I don't really care, because I already have enough from what he's been trying to attack us. I already have enough. He already seems guilty. Okay, he's calling everyone stupid and weaklings. We bought into the bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. Right? He said he don't need our support, but he does need our support, because even as an independent like myself, I'm a Christian. If I think you're too morally detestable, I can't vote for you anymore. Know what I mean? It's difficult. It's difficult because what do the Democrats bring to the table? They bring a lot of sin, a lot of flesh type sin, and you know what I'm talking about. Go to theinformator.net. See the articles I write. Nothing's in hate. I don't do none of that hate stuff. But I tell you what it is from the Bible. See, here's the thing with me. I'm non-denomination. I'm going to make a new video series about this. My philosophies is different because I don't belong to a religious church. So I don't have anyone telling me how to do things. That's what makes it different being non-denomination. I read my Bible. I get my source straight from God. I'll visit churches, and I'll tell you to go to church, right? I go every now and then. I go to different churches. I go to Catholic church. I go to Christian church. Don't matter to me. I go for the camaraderie and to hear the music, to be around people like God said. When there's more of you in my name, I'm there. So I do that. But I don't, that's, most of my stuff is straight from the Bible. I don't follow any church. I don't belong to a congregation, nor will I. I freely give money whenever I go to a church, but you can say it's a commitment issue. I don't know. Honestly, I love reading the Bible, and I love getting it straight from God. And I don't need somebody to tell me, you can have a cross, don't wear a cross, don't do this, don't do that, talk in tongues, or that you're not worthy. I don't need to hear Jesus is on a pole. We all inherit planets. I don't need to go by this man-made type nonsense. King James Version, that's what I read. I'll read like New Hebrews and all that, but I'll always go back to the King James Version because I consider that the most accurate Bible. I have my reasons. But me, like I said, being a Christian, that's how I see things. It's all about God first. So I don't give a shit. If Trump is, helping pedophiles, protecting pedophiles, I'm off. So, and that's gonna lead me into my little ending conclusion. But before we get into that, let's talk about some more about what he's been saying. So he's framing this as a hoax orchestrated by the Democrats. He's done his personal attacks on critics, right, and the media, and and like I said, there's that new story that just came out, which I don't really care, so I'm not even going to share it here. Let's see, I had this right here. This is that article that just came out, right? Trump reportedly told Epstein they have certain things in common and lewd birthday card. May every day be another wonderful secret. That just sounds stupid already. Just the title alone sounds like I don't even. Probably is not true. It's probably not true. Um, Me, on the other hand, I wrote this article. It's not my most popular, and I knew it wasn't going to be. But Trump, Epstein, the big bill, and endless wars, MAGA at a moral crossroads. The problem I have, look at endless wars. I said Trump is flipping. And this is what I mean. It's not just about the Epstein. Epstein is a huge thing because that's a moral thing. So are the others. But what happened to getting out of war? Right? He's not really doing that anymore. And it makes you wonder, has he flipped over? Is he part of the globalists? Because I think they've come at him from all sides and he doesn't know what to do anymore. You got Israel wanting things from him, pushing him in one direction. Ukraine, Russia ain't listening. And you know what? Here's another article. I did this, and I want you guys to see this. I did this article on April 27th. It was one of my Sunday rants. I just basically during the week I had some things going on or news media stories, and boom, I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to write an article, and I wrote this a couple of months ago, right? And in here, in my very first paragraph, this Trump was already getting pushed around by Putin. And so I thought I'd mention it. And so I'll read that to you, right? Let's see. The situation between Russia and Ukraine has gotten murky, and the United States is caught in the middle. Putin seems to be stringing Trump along as he takes cheap shots at Ukraine. Trump is starting to appear weak to Putin, and now Putin is grabbing for more than he deserves. I wrote that because that's what Putin was doing. He was like, he would talk to Trump, they would talk peace, and then he would over there and like bomb Ukraine. He was doing total opposite of what he was doing, and he was just kind of making Trump look stupid because Trump was kind of like Putin this, Putin that, and he's a good guy, and I'm negotiating, blah blah blah. But Putin would keep doing this shit, and I think he was taking Trump's patience. He was taking advantage of Trump and his patience, and then he was messing with Ukraine and bombing them. And we already know, like, I'm not a fan of funding Ukraine. I didn't like the beginning of the war. I do believe that it had to do with the NATO and the bases, because it's simple logic. If Russia or China had bases all around the United States and Mexico, we wouldn't like that. And that's what it comes down to. We have bases all over the world, because we have this anxiety, we have this paranoia in our government that always believes that we have to be running everything, because if we don't, what's Russia going to do? What's China going to do? And we end up building monsters and we don't even know what they would have done. You know what I mean? Like, instead of wanting all the power in the world, we became the monster, but we also created monsters by doing that because of our paranoia. So I didn't want to, I believe Putin. Like, I wouldn't want no US bases or NATO bases all around me. So I am a believer that we have been for a very long time wanting to crush Russia. And I've said it in other articles. This has to do, it's biblical. It is. If you're ever going to have a one world government, you have to crush China, Russia, Iran. You got to crush all those, because you need to be a one world, right? Well, how do you get that? Everyone has to agree, or mostly everyone has to agree, and then you crush everybody else. It's just the way it is. But I said back then that Trump, if he wanted to get that thing under control, if he really just cared about, like, let's not talk biblically, but just, geopolitics here, right? Foreign policy. If we really wanted to stop that war, he should have done, which he's doing it now, but he didn't say it in the right context, and so I don't agree with it. He said, right here's what I said. I said Trump needs to threaten Putin by saying the U.S. will stop playing favorites and instead become an arms dealer to Ukraine, allowing them to strike into Moscow if they wish. It would be shocking, and I wrote it, say it would be shocking, but Trump needs to find a way to regain strength in the situation, and that's what I meant. Like, back then, if he would have said that, like, look, Putin, it's either you're going to stop this shit or I'm just going to sell weapons to Ukraine, and they can do whatever they wish with it. It would have been a hardcore stance, but everyone around the world, I would have understood. Most of you would have understood, like, hey, he's just trying to stop this war. But see, he's doing it now, but he didn't make it specifically known. Instead, he's giving money to the UN or giving weapons to the UN. They're going to give them to Ukraine, and this conflict is just going to keep going. He should have just been direct in his messaging, because that's just the way it works. It's like with children. If a kid's making trouble and you kind of just like, hey, stop it. Hey, stop it. They just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you get up and decide, what are you going to do? Are you going to put the kid on timeout? Right? And if that doesn't work, what do? You spank his butt. That's what we did in the past. It works the best, honestly. If a kid gets out of hand, you spank his ass. That's what you do. And, it works. Because even in psychology books in the past, before this whole timeout shit, if you spanked your kid too much, you would hurt your kid. You would make your kid probably violent. Those things, 100% true. I agree with that. It loses its meaning. But in the psychology books that I read in the 90s, I believe are true, which is you don't do it often, but when you do it, just make it significant. Not abusive, but it needs to hurt. And you do it sparingly. And by doing that, that's capital punishment. You teach your kid, don't get into that much trouble. And it works. It worked on me. It works on my kids. My kids are really good kids. I barely had to hit them a handful of times. And they're good kids because of it. Everywhere we go, people compliment my kids because my kids are they're polite and stuff, and they play normal. They don't try to hurt people. They don't try to like bully people. They don't try to like my kids share. They come over. I have this rule when kids come to our place and they want to play with my kids' toys, my kids have to let them play with those toys first because they're our guest. So when my kid goes, no, that's my favorite doll, I always like, nope, let that kid play with it. But he's gonna break it. Like, hey, they're your guest. So basically, what I tell my kids, if there's something you really, really care about or something, if you have a favorite doll, then put that doll away. Just put it away before they come here. But when those other kids come here and they want to play with your stuff, you let them. They're our guest. So my kids are good kids, but that's because the discipline is there. And it's a good, strong messaging discipline. It has purpose. And Trump should have done that with Putin, and he didn't. Now he's doing it. Now it's too late. We're going to be getting into these wars over and over. And that comes to my whole Trump flipping. They got him where they want him. The Pentagon, the war machine, all these companies that make all these, our defense systems and stuff, they got more contracts. They got more money. That's the big, beautiful bill. They're getting more money. It's never going to go away. So let's talk about some of these things where he's slipping, right? Record-breaking airstrikes. 529 U.S. airstrikes in the first 5 months alone. He's matching Biden's total. He's targeted Yemen, Somalia, Syria, Iraq, Iran's nuclear sites. The bombing of Iran's nuclear sites. I mean, those missiles. If I'm correct, there were like 2 billion a piece. Or you know what? I was wrong with that. The planes cost 2 billion. Those bombs they dropped, those bunker busters. I don't know what they cost, but war machines are not cheap. I know it's in the high millions because those are very specific and special bunker busters, and they weighed like 30,000 pounds each. So you tell me it's $100 million bucks, I wouldn't doubt it. Each, I'm sure it was more than that. Point being is he's putting out more funding, right? Look at backed $832 billion defense bill, including pay raises and $148 billion defense research boost. Also pushed for separate $150 billion, one big beautiful bill military package. Um, he's starting to give money to the war machine. He's doing all the things he said he was going to do. We're going to be this peaceful country, and we're not. We're getting dragged into wars. Israel is, they have us, seems by the balls. We do whatever they want. And I'm not even against Israel. I love Israel. I have videos, right? I have the video about Greater Israel where I argue, where I argue with people like Candace Owens and how they view the Jews, which is more in this evil obsession. They hate the Jews because the Jews are like the Nazis to them. I've argued against that, because the Bible says Ted Cruz got it wrong. He don't know what he's talking about. He said, "Oh, the Old Testament, you gotta love the Jews because if you bless the Jews, you'll be blessed." And he's scared to like curse the Jews. Well, you're not cursing the Jews. Keep reading. Keep reading your Bible. Figure it out, Ted. You don't know what you're talking about. This is what's true. You shouldn't be cursing the Jews. You shouldn't be cursing anybody for that matter. But you don't curse them. But you can be an ally of the Jews without funding them. If you feel something's unjust, don't fund it. It's that simple. I'm a big believer that you need to have faith in God. And Israel, out of all the nations, should have faith in God. So if I say I'm not funding this war with the Palestinians, I'm not even going to get it between you and Iran. You guys can all go at it if you want. I'm not getting into it because I don't like the messaging. I don't like the people that are getting hurt, the kids and the women. I'm not doing it. I say good luck to you, Israel. Good luck to you. You know why I would say that? Because I believe that God would protect them. I believe it, but I'm not sure Israel believes it. Because that's the way it comes across. Like they don't believe it, but I believe it. I believe in the greater Israel, that a larger part of Israel was granted to the Israelites. And that is their land. As many people that try to say, it's not their land, it's not their land. The Bible says, God said that land would forever be Israel's once they were brought back, which they were. So they were brought back, and now that is their land forever. God said so. There's a special place for that. For the Jews, there's a special place for the land. And when I mean special, don't get that twisted. We are all the same, as it says in the New Testament. It's the time of the Gentiles. So we're the same. If you believe in Christ, you are not less than a Jew. What I'm saying is the Jews have their purpose. God gave them a purpose. And right now, they're kind of blinded. And that's because we're in the time of the Gentiles. So, I'm just going with what God says. So I'm not cursing the Jews, but I'm saying I'm not backing. You don't have to back them. You can call them out when they do things that are wrong. I just don't take it to that Candace Owens level of, she doesn't outright say it, but I feel she hates the Jews. That's what I feel. I mean, that's the way she acts. Now, I don't want to, like I said, I'm just talking about how I hear her speak, like behind her words. I know she hates the Zionists, for sure. None of us like the Zionists. If I had to tell you what I feel the Zionists are, I feel they are from the synagogue of Satan. I don't, they're not about God. Zionists don't care about God. They care about the land and the land itself, and that is it, their existence. And that's why I've said in those videos, I said in so many of these, I hope you guys go back and watch these videos. They're not as good and as clear as this one because I've gotten better. I mean, this is what, my 14th episode? A little bit better. My other ones might be a little hard to listen to, but if you dig my writing, you dig my perspective, I think you'd like those videos. But, Israel's granted that land. They're blinded right now. It's the time of the Gentiles. You shouldn't be hating the Jews. Are the Zionists doing evil things? Probably. I believe so. I mean, if you're bombing and doing things evilly because they don't want those Palestinians there anymore, that's pretty much been stated. They don't want them there. So they're doing things in a negative way. So my thought is you don't have to fund it. I could just be like, hey, man, that's your business. I'm getting out of it. I'm not funding it. And leave that up between the Jews and you leave it up to God. I know a lot of people don't like that message, but like I said, You don't have to go to war with Israel, but you can stop funding them. You can even put sanctions on them if you want. But anyways, like I said, he's being pulled everywhere, and everyone's playing him for a fool right now. And I think he's flipping. I think the globalists, there are just too many of them, and they've already told him we're going to do things this way, whether you like it or not. Look what Europe's doing. They're starting to build more weapons. They said, and those are good things, right? That's what Trump was kind of basically saying, like, hey, why don't you guys do your own thing? I also believe that may also be setting up the one world government, because that's when you think of Antichrist, when you think of end times, most of this stuff is happening over there. It's not happening in America. I'm sure we're going to feel the negative effects, but this is a European thing. This is an Israel thing. It's those lands that are mostly going to be affected. And I think the one world government is going to come out of Europe. It doesn't come out of the United States. Even though we're the most powerful, we're more of an accomplice. You know what I mean? So that's Europe is going to get us to accommodate them. And Trump is either willingly decided to help the globalist, or they're fooling him into doing it by putting him in these situations where he can't win, and he ends up actually doing their bidding, you know, whether he wants to or not. Like right now, he's giving he's going to give the weapons and the money to NATO, right? So they got him to do what they wanted. What does it matter if he gave the weapons directly to Ukraine, or if he gives them to NATO, or he gives them to any of these countries in Europe, and then Europe gives those same weapons or money to Ukraine? It's the same thing, right? So, end wars, withhold military action. He conducted airstrikes over Iran. We have already seen it. We've been more. Our military has been more active. Halt global military funding. Would in reality, what did he do? Large scale arms transfers via NATO and Ukraine. See, this is on my computer screen, and I can see that. I know you're gonna read that. Focus on America, right? That was a promise. Let's focus on America. What really happened? Secured massive defense bills and increased global involvement. That's what I'm talking about. You see it. It's not. This is not made up. You see it. You know, if you don't want to see it because you're in this cult state of mind, then I can't help you. I don't really care about you either. I don't even want to talk to you. You're in, you know, I don't understand why anyone. There's just some people you can't get through. I call them the reprobates. You can't get through them. It doesn't matter what you say. You just can't get through them. Cut foreign aid. Paused aid but retained exempted military spending to allies. So, conclusion: despite pledging to end endless wars, reduce military funding, and focus inwards, Trump's current presidency has involved escalating military action, expanded defense spending, weaponizing allies, and a more globalist peace through strength posture. So there you go. What does that ultimately lead me to, though? And that leads me to, like I said in this article, if you want to read it at theinformator.net, I get a little bit more into that. But I started with the question is it time to replace Trump? Now, here's what I mean by that. I think that the midterms are coming up, and he's got to fix what's going on right now. Like I said, too many people are split. We don't like what's going on with this Epstein. I think he's going to try to release some stuff, but this is what I think is going to happen. He's going to, if they even release any information, look how much time has passed. And if you're in the belief like me that there's so many powerful people involved, they're probably going to get rid of it. You're never going to see it. You're just not. And Maxwell, she wanted to speak. That was something that was been thrown out there, but they denied her. I'm not sure if it was a trial or what she wanted to do, but she wanted to speak, I think, to Congress or the House or whatever she was going to do. She was going to represent names. She was going to give out names and stuff like that, but they told her no. So they don't want her to speak. So let's just say she does, though. Let's just say they say, okay, yeah, you can come over here and you can speak to the Senate right? Let us know what's going on, give names. You don't think they're going to tell her like what she needs to say? Like, why is she still alive, right? Because that's the question that goes through my mind. Like, why is she still alive? So the only thing I can think of why she's still alive is because she is a trump card. If she can say the things they want her to say, if they need to bring her out, she can like basically dissolve everybody. She could say the clients like, "Oh no, there was no famous people. There was none." They might even find a sacrificial goat, I'll say, because I don't want to use the word lamb. And they'll put someone out there and somebody will take the fall for everybody. Maybe it's Prince Andrew, right? Because he's the one that was implicated before, anyways. I don't know. But I don't think we're ever going to get the truth. And I think that if this lingers because of morality issues amongst the Christian voters, then maybe it's time to look past Trump and find somebody else, a more cleaner face. Whether we'll get somebody better, that would be remain to be said. You know, like I don't know if Vance is the one, but I know most people like a lot of Trump's original ideas, and he's done pretty good things locally. In the United States, his foreign policy has been shit, just been trash. But his United States policies are fairly popular. So maybe Vance can just take on what Trump was doing and change up that foreign policy to what we wanted as voters, and maybe he'd be the guy. Because right now, he's just Trump is massively unpopular amongst a lot of people that don't want to go into wars and don't want to be spending the kind of money he's spending, especially on defense. So, like I said, I think it might be time. And I've been on the cutting edge of a lot of these things, and I think that um, if this Epstein thing doesn't go away quickly, and I mean quickly, within like say a month or two, the reaction could be so negative that we're gonna need to replace Trump, because if you're thinking ahead, you don't want Democrats in office. If you don't want liberals or Democrats, in the highest branch of government, then you're going to have to put someone out there that regains the trust of the independent and the Christian. And that's why I'm saying that. So, that being said, go into the comments, let me know what you think. Um, and tell me if you're going to tell me it's a ridiculous idea. I want to know, are you MAGA? Are you the cult? Or are you somebody with a reasonable way of thinking? Because I don't mind that. I don't mind disagreement. If you show me that you're not a cultist or an atheist and you have logical responses, we don't need to agree. If you have a logical response, then I at least respect it, and we don't have to agree. I just don't agree with morons, with complete morons, and I deal with those. And anyone that follows me on X knows that when it comes to morons, I don't care. I say a bunch of things like anybody else, because though I'm a Christian, I'm not perfect, and those people, they rub me the wrong way because they're reprobates. There's nothing you could do to change their way of thinking, and you can't even have a conversation with them. It goes nowhere. Please subscribe. God bless.
Welcome to the Informator.net.